In my career as a scientist and in my current job as the director of the Office of Intramural Training and Education, I've had the opportunity to talk with many students and postdoctoral fellows from across the country and the world. One of the things that comes up again and again when we talk about career success and research success and growing and thriving in research environments is the importance of finding supportive environments where we can be welcomed and celebrated for who we are. In this video, we explore some of the common dimensions of difference that we see in research groups in the behavioral, biomedical, and social sciences. And we're going to hear in this video from students and postdoctoral fellows who are currently here training at NIH. We're going to hear about their experiences finding support, understanding different work environments, and how they navigated the complex process of moving their career forward. Although some of the students will talk about resources specifically at the NIH, their advice is universal, and regardless of where you're studying or training, I think you'll find it helpful.
I was the first one in my family to get a PhD, so I guess the biggest challenge was explaining to my family what I was going to be studying and that I would be studying the exact same thing for 6 years. My graduate school advisor, she was pretty hands-off, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because when your advisor is hands-off, you have to learn to fend for yourself. And the good thing is you learn from all of your mistakes, but the bad thing is that you make a lot more mistakes than you would make if someone had been guiding you.
Having kids while in graduate school you always have to expect the unexpected. Kids get sick, daycare closes down, sometimes they just call you to pick up your child in the middle of the day and they don't really care what you were doing at that time, whether it's a course or you're studying for an exam or in the middle of an very important experiment. So I was always prepared for the unexpected. I had a very good support system. My husband has been very supportive, and he always knew that if I have a very important experiment, he has to be on call, even though his work was as important as mine.
My PI, she was very supportive of taking some time off right after the birth, and then also for a period of time, about 8 weeks or so, when my wife was part-time, we had an agreement that I would also be part-time, and that was something that we spoke about and that she was on board with, and I think that was very valuable to me as a father and as a parent.
They don't take into account if you have a disability, whether or not they're going to let you into graduate school. It's not a consideration. But once you start graduate school, there might be things that come up, that you need help with. And sometimes it's hard to ask for help because you're proud and you've made it this far, you're successful, and you don't need any help. But then something happens and you need help, and I don't know. It's nice that here at the NIH there have been many people to help me out and solve my problems. Yeah.
In my experience, as it's come up that I'm gay, that it's never been, I've never had any negative reaction at any time when both at the NIH and then in my graduate program at Georgetown. It's always been, everyone's been sort of non-issue and very accepting about that. The flip side of being in an environment where you're a scientist first and different aspects of your identity can become secondary to that is you don't always know that others have gone before you and had very similar experiences, or others may be having the same experience as you are right now?
I would say maybe the biggest thing about being a black woman in science is just you don't have the benefit of the assumption. Nobody's going to look at you and say, oh, she looks like a great scientist. So it's really up to you to find the opportunities to showcase your abilities and show them what you can do and tell them what you want, because nobody's really going to stop you, I don't think. I haven't gotten that experience where somebody will stop me from achieving my goals, but it could be hard to find an advocate, someone who's just going to look at you and say, hey, I want this person to succeed and I'm going to help them succeed. You have to be your advocate.
I ended up with one particular mentor that didn't have his best interest for me. And so it took me a couple of months to realize that, you know, it wasn't me, it was the way the lab was run, and, you know, his personality and my needs didn't fit, and that I really needed to move on. And so training directors here at NIH were able to work with me and help me find a lab where I had the support that I needed to complete my PhD.
When I was in my graduate school years, I went to a talk about something called imposter syndrome. And this talk dealt with people that, regardless of race, gender, ethnicity, people that just really felt like, okay, this work is so hard and I have no idea how I got to this point, but any minute now, people are going to realize that I'm an imposter and my game's going to be up. And hearing someone else talk about that and just realizing that there were people that were feeling this way, again, whether or not it was your gender, whether or not it was your race, but really appreciating that it's just hard. And there aren't a lot of people that pursue MDs or PhDs at this point. So that talk about imposter syndrome really helped me realize that this is just a new dynamic that I have to learn how to navigate. At that time, the recommendation was to seek out people that you can work with. So one of the things that I learned how to do was to seek out mentors. And some of my mentors are the same race, some of my mentors are the same gender, some of my mentors are in the field that I want to be in, regardless of race or gender. And one of the things that I learned is that that's how you get through, is by talking to people that have either navigated the path that you're trying to navigate or have some experience in those fields.
You know, at a number of times during my training in medical school and in my specialty training, I was really aware of that point of difference of being a gay person among my peers. I think a lot of the differences that you guys have probably heard about today, that we've talked about today, are differences that are very readily apparent and that people negotiate without having to think about when to disclose them or how. And I think one of the things that's different for LGBT people is that a lot of the issues we face are around when to share those details of our lives, who we can share those details with. And that's something that really came through for me as a med student when I was working in a lab, and again when I was training. And it's interesting because it's something that comes up again and again. Every time you move in your career into a different lab or a different group, those are issues with new people that you might have to negotiate again.
When I first came here, I was already a little bit prepared, so I knew that I was going to have some problems because I don't walk as easily as other people. So I had asked a few people how it would be to get around the campus. But when I came here, it was actually a little bit more difficult than I expected, because compared to the Netherlands, it's actually pretty hilly. So I asked a lot of people, or I talked to a lot of people about this problem, and at a certain point I came in contact with some people of OITE, and they were actually very helpful. So they helped me connect with the right people, and right now I have a scooter to help me get across campus and especially tackle those big hills.
One thing that I think is important is finding mentorship and also thinking about what you want for your future, seeing someone who is actively doing that at this point, and kind of forecasting, you know, can I be doing what they're doing 20 years down the road? I think a challenge of being a Native American in higher education, just having low numbers of Native Americans in higher education in general, is finding that kind of leadership or that kind of role where it's saying, hey, I think I can do this, 20 years from now.
So to anybody who's thinking about going to grad school or becoming a postdoc and you're a little nervous because you may be one of the only people of color there, I would suggest let go of that fear, be yourself, and don't be afraid to meet people who don't look like you and who don't act like you and who may not think like you, because you'll be surprised where you can find support and actually like lifelong friends.
If you have challenges or difficulties, speak up earlier rather than later. It took me a long time to share with my mentor the difficulties I had, and as soon as I voiced them out, first of all, they didn't seem so bad, and also he was able to offer some solutions.
Keep a positive outlook, that's very important, and be flexible in keeping your mind open. I would say be focused on the end result, however, don't let that overwhelm you. Enjoy the journey as you go along, because it's going to be over pretty quickly and you're going to realize, where the time goes.
Professors always want to help students, so never ever be afraid to go up and ask, or if you're not doing well, to ask how can you improve, because they want you to succeed, so never be afraid to ask for that help or to ask a question.
My most important advice for anyone who is going to graduate school is to pick a really, really good advisor. It doesn't matter if the advisor is established or if he or she is just starting out as a professor. But you want to find somebody who will be a good mentor, who may not know everything that your research topic entails yet, but is willing to go through all the obstacles to learn about these new things and work through a lot of technical difficulties, as well as caring about your career development.
Set up a goal, and every time you have a challenge, remember that goal. Also, create like a road map and get as much information and knowledge you can about how to get that goal. Ask for help. It's always good to talk with someone who is ahead, who can tell you what you should do, how you can prepare better. And be persistent, patient. It's hard to obtain what we want all of a sudden. It's a process, but eventually, if you are persistent, you will get there.
Difference is a huge source of strength and insight as well, and that's a piece of advice I would offer really sincerely to anyone, regardless. It's not just LGBT people, anyone who's different. And I think it's hugely important in science, where so much of what we're doing is looking for a new way to solve a problem, a new way to approach a question. And I think if you're the person in the group who has a different perspective, that can be hugely helpful.
The number one advice I would give to somebody who's thinking to have a kid during grad school, or really any time in life, but especially grad school, is you have to know how to schedule your time appropriately. So those mornings where you come in and drink a coffee and read the internet for an hour don't exist anymore. You come into work, you work hard, and then you get to leave and go get your kid and work hard at home. You're not going to be going out for lab lunches for 2 hours or going to happy hour after work. It's not, I make it sound bad, but you just have to know every day counts, and it's not like you can just put it off to tomorrow, because tomorrow is another experiment or something else big you have to do. You have to be good with time management.
My advice to people that are kind of coming through and starting to navigate this process is really to stay involved, make sure that you're going to things. There's after school events, there's after classes events that you can become involved in that will help you. Embrace your differences. We are all, the one thing to realize is that we're all different. So whereas I personally felt different because I was an African-American woman who was a mom, there are other people that felt different because they were they're first coming through this type of education. They're the first that went to undergraduate. They're the first that are in the field of medicine. We all have differences. There's other people that, felt that they would never get married and wanted to get married. So there's so many things that we're each struggling with. embrace your differences, embrace who you are, and share those differences, talk about them, and then you'll realize that we all have these things that make us human.
I hope you found those stories and guidance and suggestions helpful as you navigate your career. Here in the Office of Intramural Training and Education, our focus is on helping you navigate your scientific career. We offer a number of videos and workshops online. You can find these at www.training.nih.gov. Also, check out some of the other videos here on the YouTube website or suggest a topic that we might tackle next. Furthermore, if you find yourself at a career junction and are interested in coming to the National Institutes of Health to train at either the post-bac, graduate, or postdoctoral level, please visit our website and send me an email and I'd be happy to help you. Best of luck with your scientific career.